Welcome to the Fascia-Informed Therapist, the essential podcast for occupational therapy professionals looking to deepen their understanding of fascia's pivotal role in therapy and health. I'm your host, Amy Mayer, an experienced occupational therapist, practice owner, and dedicated educator. Here we'll dive into the fascinating world of fascia, exploring its significance in the human body and its critical influence on occupational therapy practice. Each episode will bring you cutting-edge insights, expert interviews, and practical strategies to help you confidently integrate the science of fascia into your therapeutic approach. Whether you're a seasoned practitioner or just starting out, our goal is to equip you with high-quality, evidence-based, and fascia-informed continuing education opportunities that will enhance your skills and benefit your clients. So join us as we unravel the complexities of fascia and transform the way you practice occupational therapy. All health and wellness practitioners are welcome. Let's learn, grow, and evolve together. Hi, this is Amy, and this is another edition of the Fascia-Informed Therapist. And today I have a client and friend, Cheryl Sacco, with me to talk about her experiences of being a client in a fascia-informed practice. And it's been a while since I've seen you.
I know. I know.
We'll fix that.
Yes, please.
Okay, so we can talk about whatever, anything, but I think it's always maybe nice to start from the beginning. So how did you end up coming to see me? Because my recollection is it was slightly reluctantly.
It was, it's probably been at least, I don't know how many years now.
Pre-COVID.
I mean, I would say almost 8 or so years. Could that be right?
Wow.
I think so.
Probably seven.
So I had a neighbor and friend who is a nurse and a knowledgeable person about all sorts of things, and we would go on walks around the neighborhood, and she was sort of my go-to person to ask, I have a pain here, I have something here, I have something, and she would have some sort of solution for me. And if I recall, I had a hip problem, and the way I described it, she goes, I have somebody you should probably go see. And I said, okay, who? Expecting a doctor or, you are a doctor, an MD who would prescribe me a prescription for my whatever was wrong. Mm-hmm. And she said, it's a little different. It's myofascial work. And I said, what is that? Mm-hmm. Come again. So she explained it to me. But because Jane was a person I knew, trusted, liked, I was open to it. Because she had recently been, at that time, just starting some healing touch. She was getting certified in healing touch, and she had described that to me, which was very foreign to me, but she needed someone to practice on for all of her hours. So I had done that with her and been pleased and sort of opened my mind to different ways to help your body heal, or just different methods. And so I had done that with her. So when she suggested you, I said, okay, I'll give it a try, and I really didn't know what I was getting into, but I was pleasantly surprised. So I came into your office, and I loved and trusted you from the very beginning, because you didn't just start doing something to my body. I wasn't a math equation. If this is wrong with you, I'm going to do this. Stand up. Let me see you walk. Let's check your posture. Let's check your alignment. Where's the weight in your feet? And I thought, I knew from the get-go, you care about my body, and you actually care about people as well. But, you were so thorough that I trusted you, and everything that came after that was a pleasant surprise. But it just opened my whole world to, there's a whole nother way to treat your body when it's in pain.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's go backwards a little bit, because Jane was familiar with me. Mm-hmm. because she knew my colleague Pam, who's a massage therapist, and then Pam had sent her to me, and then I actually ended up seeing her husband and she has 3 sons. I think I've seen 2 of them. I don't know if I've seen all 3, but she was happy with the outcome. So great that she trusted me enough then to send you. But was Healing Touch your first avenue into anything more alternative?
It's the first thing I actually tried. I would back up another few years to, prior to when I had my job as a strength and conditioning coach at the high school, I worked with an athletic trainer side by side all day. And she was always my go-to person, just in between classes going, hey, my elbow hurts, my knee hurts, she always had something. But she, on a personal level, she was doing meditation at lunchtime, and she was and I had never.
I don't think I know that.
Yeah, I had never. She was the first person who sort of introduced me to anything other than nutrition and more exercise that could make you feel better as a whole.
Okay.
So she introduced me to a lot of different books and ways of thoughts, and we had thousands of conversations that and we're still great friends. But she's the first person I ever talked to that I didn't think was crazy that did other things, because I only knew these things. And I knew them so well, and I thought if you just did more of the same things, it would be better. And now I've learned
Let's go there right now. Let's go back to those things. So you mentioned that you were a strength and conditioning coach for high school students, and that's been a lot of what you did,
right?
Who you were. You do other things. You're a writer. You're lots of things. But you're an athlete.
Yes.
You're an athlete. You're a multi-Ironman. How many?
4 full, but dozens of races. Yeah.
Okay.
Events. I don't even call them races anymore. I don't race. I participate.
Okay. So I remember you saying to me multiple times that you felt like you could fix anything with just the right combination of nutrition and exercise, right?
Right.
Okay. So go explain a little bit, because I think what Cheryl did as far as strength and conditioning things were, we jived so much because you're very creative and full body movement when you're working with kids. The story about you kind of getting, okay, here's your little teeny space to get the kids to work out in, and you got so creative. It's so cool.
I had to be creative. So when I first took this job as a strength coach, it was a teeny little weight room with very little equipment and very large numbers of kids in there at a time. And there was no way I could change that. I didn't find it productive for 30 kids to be in a small space and stand around and wait for 2 pieces of equipment, nor did I find it safe. And so I just said, eventually, the end of the story is, and I'll go back to the middle, is that by the time I left there, I'd written a grant and we built a huge, beautiful state-of-the-art facility that I got to help design to make it safer and more productive. But in the, 8 or 9 years in between there, I had all these athletes to train, and it was just so unproductive and unsafe. And so there was an area outdoors behind the building that just was sort of a junk area. And I said, hey, could I use this area? And they're like, sure, if you clean up all this stuff. So I did. It's a fenced in area. It was behind the building. I just thought, what else can I use to help? I wanted to make kids stronger, wanted to help prevent injury, wanted to make them more mobile for whatever sport they were playing, and make them sort of stronger, better, faster, but I didn't have room to do that. So did a little research, and I thought, sand would be great. We live in Nebraska, that's a little tough, but we built a long built a 30-yard strip and filled it with sand. We had parents and donors and everybody, and built it, got sand in there, didn't have enough equipment and had zero budget. So my husband had a bunch of PVC pipes in our garage, and we made slosh pipes out of them. We put some water in them and capped the ends, and we would do squats with them. We'd do all sorts of, instead of a bar, which actually ended up, I liked it better than an Olympic bar sometimes, because
I think it's brilliant.
It made you use your core to stabilize. I will say,
it's unpredictable, like being an athlete is.
Exactly. I mean, it was so much more functional. So we ended up, and then we got some bars, and TRXs were just coming out then.
Okay.
And I got a few at a really great price that I think I just paid for myself at first, because I thought, yeah, I'll use these and give them to my kids later if everyone hates them or whatever. But they also were a very functional piece of equipment that I had them build bars outside and we would hang them up. We ended up calling it the beach workout. It looked sort of like a prison yard, but we called it the beach because it had sand on it. And I could run probably 60 kids safely through a circuit at a time there. So in our summer training, I'd have some kids inside lifting and the other kids would be outside doing the beach training. I still have kids to me to this day who have been out of school for 15 years who come up and go, I hated and loved those summer workouts, but I did that out of desperation. I had nowhere else. Either these kids were standing in line waiting for the two pieces of equipment that were available, or I found something else for them to do. And it ended up being so beneficial. Even when we got the new weight room, we still use some of those things. I still have a slosh pipe, much smaller than the one we had there, that I use. It makes me, it's great. What else did we use there? Just anything that we could. I got tractor tires from my brother's farm and we would flip the tires. I got fire hose from my son-in-law, the firefighter. I got old hoses and we used those. But it made our kids very athletic, very injury proof. And our athletic trainer did keep logs of, ACL tears in girls, there's a certain percentage. We were far below national averages for ACL tears. And so I know that what we did was helpful for them and worked.
Yes, and I think there's lessons in that, because I think you were way, way ahead of your time in terms of how you were training these kids to be injury resilient. Out of linear planes, unpredictable movements, unpredictable inputs, ahead of your time. And those things are starting to be used, or have been, more in the college and higher levels of athleticism. But that's the kind of stuff that we should be thinking about in rehab too.
Right.
When we're teaching clients of all ages to be more injury proof, to rehab and be able to engage in life better. So anyway, I think that's a lesson for the practitioners who are listening.
And that was a hard sell. It might be to a client too, sometimes depending on who your client is or what they want to do. But, in a way it was a hard sell to certain coaches that this was going to be beneficial. Like, shouldn't they be in the weight room doing more bench press? No. How often do you lie on the ground and put your arms overhead in real life? Not that that's a worthless exercise, it's not, but I said, this is better. It was a hard sell. And to some of the kids, they're thinking, how's this going to make me better? I don't understand. I'm doing broad jumps in the sand. I don't understand. But they did. And once they bought in and felt it and,
saw their outcomes.
And they had some very good outcomes. There were some state championship outcomes. I'm not saying it's because of that, but that did help. Mm-hmm. And we were a small enough school that we could not afford to have athletes injured. We didn't have 4 more in reserve, So, no, I think in terms of relating this to your audience and clients, it's that you have to open up your mind sometimes. Something you have a client do that they might think is a little weird, which we have another story about that. The yoga nidra story.
Yes.
You might suggest something and they can't quite see the benefit of that, but if you can just get them to trust you and say, and also explain why. I mean, I did explain why. High school students aren't always that open-minded, but most of them were, and they did great. But I would think the same would be true of clients, because you've done that to me before, suggested something that I thought was a little weird.
I think we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Where I think I want to go next is the whole idea of using your body differently. And I don't think I've talked a lot on this podcast about the natural movement certification that I did. That was back
so
in
cool.
2019. And I ended up doing that as a result of following Katie Bowman and reading Move Your DNA. And then I saw her collaborating with MoveNat, and I'm like, oh, I got to do that. Signed myself up for their natural movement certifications. Had no idea what I was really getting into and all the things I was expected to do. But man, I was 53 at the time and had to train my body to do some things that I hadn't done in a very long time. Passed the certification and then came back and offered a workshop to start showing people about natural movement. And you came.
I did, and I was duly humbled.
So it was, I was even surprised. I'm like, this Iron Man, she's going to come in here and she's going to laugh at me and the stuff I'm asking people to do. And the thing that I remember standing out the most that particular day was the jumping. Is that what stands out to you?
Yes, I still think of it 3 times a week when I still do jumps, going, thank God Amy had me try that or I wouldn't be able to do jumps anymore. I was so afraid.
Yeah, and I was too when I first started.
And where did that come from? When did you get afraid to jump?
When do you get afraid to jump?
When was the last time you jumped up and down outside on a playground and it was no big deal, and then all of a sudden it's a major challenge, right?
Exactly. And just so people know where what I had to do was I had to be able to jump on a platform as high as my knee, so a vertical jump up onto that platform. And it took me a while to train up to that.
I can't believe you did what you did. I mean, that's impressive.
At 53, right? So, but that goes to show how resilient the body is. And when I started jumping up just hopping, and then up 1 inch. And then that's what we did with you that day. And you were like, how did you just, and then I think what happened was you were like, oh yeah, I can do that. And then you got up to it and you were like, mm-mm.
But can I? But I will tell you what that did do for me. It's like, well, I'll be darned if I'm not going to be able to jump on that thing.
Exactly.
And it made me, and I started with, I would go to the gym and take out maybe a 25-pound plate off the rack that's, 2 or 3 inches. And I started doing that. And now, even at my home workouts, jumping's a huge part of I always did it when I wrote workouts for athletes, jumping was always a big part. But I just quit doing it at some point.
Right.
And great, the Ironman's wonderful and all, but it's all linear. And I have to do so many other mobility exercises and other workouts to be able to absorb all that linear training. Mm-hmm. I do more of that for my head and my heart because I just like to do it, but it's not physically the greatest thing for me. I don't think.
That's a really good point, is we tend to do the most what we're the best at.
Sure. Who wants to do stuff we suck at?
Exactly.
Excuse me.
Exactly.
But we don't.
But we do. We gravitate. So, people who are more lax and flexible tend to gravitate to yoga. People who are thicker and stronger tend to gravitate toward the weight room, right? So, but we have to, in order to keep our body balanced, we have to mesh those things together. And then I think the other lesson in all that story was grading. And in the OT world, we call it grading, where we just step people up to a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. And I've done that with many clients when it comes to trying new things. And do you remember the day? Because so Cheryl and I have, I blended your names, collaborated on a few different classes and workshops for people. And I'm remembering the day that you taught the class that Pam came to at over the noon hour, and you wanted him just to jump up onto a yoga block.
Yeah.
And she just kind of kept doing one of these, like, she couldn't get herself to jump up onto a yoga block.
But I get it.
And so I just gave her a piece of yoga mat that was shaped in a square and put it in front of her. Like, just jump onto that. And she did that. Once she did that, it was like, okay, I can jump. I'm safe. And then I was like, I'm going to spot you while you jump up on the yoga. And then she did it, but you got to ease people into stuff.
There are still times I have to, I don't jump very high, and I don't jump that many times. You don't need to get the benefit from it, no. I don't think. But it's more getting my brain to say, it's okay if you do this, It's just, I don't know what happens to us as we get old. If you don't do something, we just get too comfortable doing more of what we already do. Mm-hmm. And I've found the greatest benefits in the last 15 years of my life, probably, of doing different, I had never even done yoga before. I used to, back in the day, teach, step aerobics in my little leotards. And one of the instructors was starting a yoga class. And I'm like, yoga? I don't understand. Okay, I'll come. And I just thought, well, that's cute, but I have to go do my regular workout, right?
My real workout.
And she goes, no, just stay the whole class. Please, just give it a try. So again, because I like and trust this person, I give it a try. So difficult, so humbling, and so wonderful. Still a big part of my life, almost every day. Nothing wild, but even 20 minutes a day, so beneficial. Mm-hmm. It's just I don't know how you get your clients to, trust that what you're telling them really will pay off if they stick with it. I suppose I'm not an OT, obviously, so I don't know how difficult that is with clients.
Well, you have to match it to their interests, match it to their concerns, and then they're more likely to listen, right?
Right. Right.
Right, client?
Yes, OT person, yes.
Okay, so Cheryl and I also have a YouTube channel, Fascia-Informed Fitness, and what's our tagline? Consistency over
intensity.
Yes, consistency over intensity. So you don't have to be super intense all the time.
Right.
As long as you're consistent, you're going to keep your body in a place where it can be more functional and more resilient.
Agreed. And something I would have said before, but I didn't practice it. I think I learned it, the consistency over intensity. When I was a strength coach, kids would sign up for strength and conditioning class instead of doing their weight training after school when they were going to practice, so they didn't have to stay so long after school. So I had them every day, but actual weight room time was maybe 28 to 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's not very long. Mm-mm. But we devised such a great little system that because they were in there every single day and doing something different every single day. Mm-hmm. We had body weight training day, we had circuit training day, we had heavier lifting day, we had, and then one day a week where it was just something totally not resistance training related. I introduced them to yoga. I introduced them to kickboxing. I don't know. We'd just do something fun, and they loved those days. Well, it's fun to move your body differently. Mm-hmm. And even with like the Ironman training, I'm still trying to do that at 62. I can't put in that many miles and that many hours anymore. So I can still finish the event, but you don't have to pound out more miles all the time. There's a certain amount, of course, you have to do. But by doing mobility and strength and, all those other types of doing recovery methods like, fascia work or all sorts of things, healing touch, whatever you do. You have to spend time on recovery and you have to spend time in relaxation. I didn't do all those things, but I sort of learned all of that from you and OT. I don't know that I would have embraced all those different things if I hadn't gone to see you, because I learned every time I went for, a session, I would learn something else about something else. You're teachers. You might be OTs, but you are also teaching people about their bodies. And most of us really want to learn about that.
So talk about that a little bit, the science piece. You love to hear about that kind of stuff.
I do.
Absorb it. And, we've talked about different podcasts, some that are like way over, like the Peter Attia's and some of those that are like, that's a little biochemistry there for us today. But you can definitely absorb the science, right? At least in the way that I give it to you.
The way that you describe it to me, and also, again, it's about, as a client, and I don't know how you encourage people to be this way, but give them a chance to be more open-minded. Say, well, just try this, and if you don't feel any benefit from it, then we'll find something else. But, I like to hear the science. I think most people do. One of the things that attracted me to Amy was because you're a teacher, you were in the academic world for many years, and it's what you're trying to do with this podcast. You're still trying to educate and inform and inspire. It's our body. I don't want to just come in and have you do something and not know what you're doing and why. Not that I don't trust you. I trust you, but you pushed something here and I felt something on my other foot. I don't understand. Explain that to me. I was fascinated. It should be the same way if you go in a doctor's office, like, here, take this pill. Well, why? What's it going to do to me? And what are the side effects? Do you not want to ask questions about your own body? I do. And I appreciate going to someone who considers you intelligent enough to even understand it, because I think a lot of us feel in many different, I don't care if it's a dentist's office, doctor's office, massage therapy, sometimes you feel like they just well, you'd never understand that. So just, do what I say and, it's going to be good for you. So you just do it. No, I want you to trust me to understand it. And if I don't understand it, reword it. You're all smart enough to do that. And I have asked you things before, like I'll ask you something, you'll explain it, and then I'll say, well, I don't really still understand that. And you'll explain it again. I consider that part of the benefit and part of the service I get when I come see you or go to a workshop. That's what your workshops are all about, really, is educating people on how to care for themselves on their own. Yes, we still need to go for treatment sometimes, but I personally love that. I think most people do. I don't know. I
would say most of my clients love hearing about their bodies and learning the new layer. But speaking of things that it took several times to get through.
Here we go.
So you went through a period of a lot of stress. A lot of stress. And you don't have to go necessarily into what was going on in your life, but there was some things, big family, lots going on. You're a caretaker of all, and you had a lot going on. And I was like, Cheryl, you've got to do some meditation. You've got to get the stress under control. It's a layer to your experience of pain, and if you can work on that, you don't have to be perfect. And I thought, since Cheryl is a very body-based person, that yoga nidra would be a really good choice for meditation. And I'm sure I gave you some videos. I have one out there on my YouTube channel. Made lots of some apps, gave you lots of options. And I probably explained it once or twice, but I'm thinking probably what was going on is you were so, nope.
No, I wasn't at the time. You know, when you suggested it, I mean, I came in for a session and you could feel my stress, and it was just a super stressful time. We all have them. The details almost don't matter because we all get there at some point,
that's
right?
true.
I was vibrating with stress, and I wasn't sleeping, and I was in pain. Yeah, and you suggested yoga. What I heard was yoga, and I'm going, oh, okay, I can do this. I love yoga. I'll do some yoga-based something. What's the nidra thing? And I don't think I really listened, but I'm just like, at that point, I'd been to you enough and known you long enough that whatever Amy says, I will do, because you've never steered me wrong.
My recollection, it took you 6 months to actually do the
Well,
yoga
I think,
nidra. From suggesting it to actually you coming back and saying, all right, I tried it. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I remember being, finally.
You know what? I don't recall how long it was between when you suggested and when I did it. I don't know. That period of time is like a. Anyway,
I'm sure it was.
When I did try it, like I must have been in a bad state and thought, I should do what Amy suggested. I forgot about this or whatever it was, and I cue up a video and has you lie down on the mat right away, and I'm going, okay, good, you get to start on your back. This is great because I'm kind of tired, you know. Well, after 15 minutes, I'm still lying on my back, and I didn't understand what it was. It's a meditation. It's a mental body scan.
Focusing on different areas of the body and just noticing them without judgment.
But there's no movement.
There's no movement.
And this is not my jam. Okay? Not moving is not my style.
Right?
But it is now. But as I'm halfway through this video, in fact, I open my eyes and I peek up to see and it's, 15 minutes left or something. I'm like, well, I'm this far in. Okay, I'll finish it, I suppose, because I'm no quitter, right? So I finish it, and in the middle thinking, I can't believe she suggested this for me. She knows me. Why would she have me lie on this mat and not move? And she's always given me good information, but she really blew it this time. Really, really blew it. Get up from that mat on the first time, and went, I feel better. But, and I wrote it off. Well, it's because I took a break for 25 minutes. That's all. So I tried it again not too much later, and I truly felt it. I just didn't understand it. I still don't totally understand how it works, and I don't care anymore because I love it. Mm-hmm. It got me through that stressful time. It was something I could go do for 15 minutes. And it would make me feel better. I wasn't getting great sleep. It helped me rejuvenate. But do you want me to keep going on when it really helped me? So fast forward, I don't know how many years, but 2, 3 years later, I found myself, I also found this through Amy, but I found myself in an MRI machine for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And I was scared to death because I had been to Amy because I'm numb all down the side of my body, and I'm sure I have a pinched nerve back here. Please fix me, right? Help me.
Do your thing.
Do your thing, whatever you can do. I'm in pain, I'm numb, I'm tingly, I've got a lot of weird things going on, and I'm, was sure it was that. And you did work on me, and you gave me some relief, and you even at that time, another reason I trust you and why clients will trust their OTs or people who are working with them, you were very honest with me. You didn't pretend like you could fix me. You said, I feel like there's something bigger going on here, and I feel like you need to see your doctor. And also trust that, yes, I will go spend money for sessions with you or other modes of treatment, modalities of treatment. And I trust you because when it's beyond what you think you can help me with, you said so. And I appreciated that. And it was good that you did. So I ended up in the ER because they thought I was having stroke symptoms, but it ended up being MS, which you had kind of said it almost sounds like it could be. And I thought, oh, that's nuts.
Well, I thought because of your age, I thought it would be a really unusual thing, but the symptoms
Right, I was 59 at the time. Yeah. So anyway, I end up in the ER, and they send me in I was in the MRI machine for almost 3 hours.
That's amazing.
And it was horrible to me. I know there are worse things out there, but it was very difficult, and I was scared, and I had gone to the ER kind of reluctantly. It seems to be a pattern with me, but it was my husband's birthday, and we had people over, and my daughter was at the house, my adult daughter, who goes, oh, for heaven's sakes, you can't even walk. Like, I'm taking you to the ER. And I'm like, I'm not going to ruin your dad's birthday. Just sleep. So he stayed home, and she took me there, and she's like, well, we'll just go hang out there. And, so he wasn't there. I was getting scareder by the minute. It was almost 2 hours and 45 minutes. And how I got through that MRI was I had done enough yoga nidra at that point that I just said, okay, pretend like you're listening to one of those meditations. And I just sort of went through it on my own. In my head, I was my own little instructor. Mm-hmm. And, I was shaking, I was crying, I was scared, but that calmed me. It got me through. And I just thought, the things that happen to us in life sort of become a blueprint for the things that happen next sometimes. And I was so thankful that day. It chokes me up. I was so thankful for that.
I remember you telling me that story.
I was so thankful for that. So never underestimate the tools you give your clients, because they might not just help at that moment and in that situation. But once you teach a client a tool or a method, they have it. And that's why I love what you do, because you teach people. You don't just do something to or for people, you teach us, and that's so important. So that got me through a really harrowing time. And to this day, that is still almost every day I try to do a yoga nidra. And I have now tried to pay it forward, and when I tell other people to do it, if they're like, what is that? I said, I know, I was there, I was that person, but I'm thankful for that to this day.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing all that. Because I will often talk about how it's not one thing that makes people healthy and feel good. And everybody has their own little mix of what they do to feel their best. What are all yours? Because I know there's nutrition.
Do you want all the things?
I want all the things that you do. And I know you love to do lots of different kinds of exercise and lots of things. But yeah, I want to know.
A regular day. Well, again, talk about the blueprint thing. I mean, I've been an athlete my entire life. So I've always had it's not exercise or a workout or a checklist thing for me. It's kind of my happy time of day. Like that's not a chore for me. And I know it is for a lot of people. I've always loved that. We grew up in Iowa, Amy and I, where girls' sports in high school were celebrated more than many places. I just looked this up today. Iowa girls basketball started in 1926.
Oh, wow.
So we were in a place where that was the cool thing to be, Anyway, so I've always been interested in athletics. And then nutrition just sort of goes hand in hand with that. And then I'm glad I had all of that, because by the time I did get the MS diagnosis, I kind of upped the nutrition even more. I believe you told me about Dr. Terry Walls, who is an MS expert, has MS herself, and sort of adopted her eating plan. And I have many thoughts on nutrition. I don't like diets or labels, or you find a mix of what works for you. And again, if we're all individual, what works for you is not going to work for me. And so I do sort of I guess it's a paleo sort of based diet. I eat meat, but I am pretty diligent about the nutrition. I kind of follow a lot of what Dr. Walls says because I manage my MS with nutrition and exercise and all the things, and 0 medications so far. So nutrition, I have been open to things like cold plunging. I did that for quite a while, which really, for me, it helped. It helped me a lot. I don't do that as frequently because I moved and I don't have a huge bathtub anymore, and I'm not spending $9,000 on a cold plunge tub.
How did it help you? Sorry.
It helped me. So I had a lot of nerve ending pain. It helped with that. I had a lot of. It just helps inflammation. It would help anxiety. It would help my sleep. It helped recovery from exercise. I just felt, I couldn't believe it because I use the seat warmer in the car in June. Okay, I do not like cold things. Every winter in Nebraska, I want to move to Florida. I don't like cold things. So it had to do something. It was awful to get in, but I felt invigorated. It was great for me.
Okay.
I did so I don't do that as much anymore because I don't have the big tub, but I, at least 3 or 4 times a week, just do a big bucket of ice water. It's the cheap version, and I will submerge my hands for 3 minutes. I will do my face. I can't do that for 3 minutes, but I have to come, 3 minutes taking a breath, and my feet. And I've read that can have a lot of benefits too. I don't feel as much benefit, but I do feel benefit from that. I do some sauna. I do the yoga nidra almost every day. I do yoga or try to do some natural movement things. I'm so challenged by those, but now I'm sort of, I don't know, I find it sort of challenging and fun to see if I can make some improvements on that, So I do those things because, I was just on an airplane recently. The number of people that can't get their own overhead luggage out of the bin, it's just terrible. Like, I don't want to be that person.
I've had many clients that said, I need to be able to do that. I don't want to have to ask for help.
I have 9 grandkids.
Or have been injured from doing it.
Right. I want to fly kites with the grandkids. 2-year-olds are deceivingly fast at the zoo. You need to be able to go get them. Just life things. So I've readjusted. I still focus on exercise and nutrition, but all the other things, figuring out what my fascia does and how to keep it healthy. I never knew these things, and they make a difference. Hydration, I don't think I was ever very good at that. Breathing, I was never very good at that.
We skipped right over the diaphragmatic breathing, yeah.
That was also on day 1 when I met you. Show me how you breathe. What do you mean, show you how I breathe? I'm here, aren't I? I'm breathing. I've learned so much just about and as important as exercise and nutrition are, all these other things are too. Just, they all go together. I don't know what other really interesting things I do.
We were just, before we started the camera, we were talking about red light or sauna.
Sauna. Yeah, so I don't have one, investigating getting one. It's funny, the things I used to want to buy for my house were, new furniture and I don't know,
curtains.
Curtains, and now it's like, do I want a sauna or a cold plunge tub? But you have to investigate all those things, and some people think I'm a little wacky, even some of my own kids, I think, like, oh my gosh, you spend so much time every day. Well, I do, but it's a great investment because it keeps me It keeps me going and it works for me. I'm not saying everybody needs to do all the things. And I've now figured supplements were also a huge thing. At first, I'm like, oh, this supplement's good for MS, and this. I had, a tray this huge in my pantry, but you have to figure out what works for you. And I think you need to get your information from reliable sources. You're one of my reliable sources. You can't listen to every podcast. I have about 3 or 4 that I trust and listen to. You can't buy every product. You have to research a lot. You have to talk. And that's why I feel like I've sort of built this little team, and that's where OTs who are listening, like, you're part of that team for a person. Like, you're an important part. If someone continues to come to you, they trust you, and the information you give them is valuable, and you're part of their little healthcare team. And if we're all going to be our own healthcare advocates, which we better be, I'm not opposed to hospitals and doctors, but that's just part of the picture. That used to be my first phone call or stop. And, if I break my leg, yes, I'm probably not going to come see you. I'm probably going to the ER. But,
Please.
If I have a nagging pain or some other problem, you might be my first phone call. Not that I may never go see a doctor, but this would be my first stop. And many times I get better results that way. So just know, as OTs who are listening out there, you're a huge part of people's care teams, and they rely on you and trust you. And I think more and more we need people in our corner,
And I'll just, 2 things I wanted to say or react to. One is, if I don't know something, I will. And what did I say to you about saunas? I haven't done a deep dive on that one.
I came to Amy today and said, hey, what kind do you think? Because there's so many kinds. And yeah, I appreciate that. You just need someone you trust that's honest.
And I'll send you to a resource if I have one. But if I don't, I don't. And I'll say so. I won't make stuff up. And then,
I appreciate that.
Now I forgot what the other thing was.
No, I just think learning is, and maybe when you start out as an OT, you feel like it's all going to be physical stuff, but it's the relationships and the trust and the information that's also super valuable.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to say was what I probably say in about every podcast is becoming fascia-informed. I don't think I could have answered a lot of the questions 15, 20 years ago before I really understood how the body works through the lens of the fascial system. It just has made a huge difference for me and helping me put all these other pieces together on how to really help myself and help other people. And I suppose it's also a blessing for me because I love to learn about that stuff. I'm a learner, and I just suck up as much of that knowledge as I can. And then I also think I think a lot of OTs are this way. We're good translators. We're good translators of the science to our clients, and we listen to their stories. We listen to what's going on with them and what's important to them. And then we can connect that to their stories, and then that makes it more meaningful to them so they can absorb it and apply it.
I mean, that's exactly what has happened with me. And if I'm, an average client, maybe there isn't an average client, everyone's unique, but I think that's also one of the things you do best, and other people who practice with you, is that everybody's an individual. And it is the exact opposite of how you feel when you walk in to a hospital these days. And they're doing what their system is designed to do, and they do help people, I understand. But this, you just can't, this one-on-one personal treatment is just so helpful. And it also, I don't know, you make people physically feel better, but you connect with people, and that's what doesn't always happen in a doctor's office. They don't necessarily have the time with the patient load.
Right.
They aren't horrible people who can't connect with people. Their system isn't designed for them to do that, and yours is. And it's very beneficial.
And I think that's something that is true across OT practitioners, is that we're very curious about people and we want to know what's important and meaningful to you. And I've got a captive audience on my table, so I can ask all kinds of questions. Now, I do let the client drive. If you were tired and you wanted to rest, I wouldn't talk your ear off. I would let you rest. But most of the time, there's curiosity and yeah, I feel incredibly grateful because I get such cool people that end up in my practice and that have a curiosity and a desire to learn and a desire to get better. And
you probably learn from each client something.
Oh, totally. And that's especially true of you and you coming in, and I feel like I've learned a lot from you about all the stuff you've done with training. And I'm always a little nervous if I go to a class that Cheryl's leading, because it's challenging, but it's fun. It's fun.
Is it though?
The slosh pipes. We've put heavy things on the floor and drag them with on
the blankets,
blankets, and it's like very translatable to life.
Well, it's interesting that you like to. I mean, I don't have the educational background that you do, and you don't maybe have the training background that I do,
Nope.
But somehow our thought processes are the same, or sometimes the same when it comes to that, because I was just a strength coach with no budget and how am I going to get these football players to be able to push we're going to have to, I didn't have a sled for them to push. So we would put weights on towels on the gym floor and push them around. Mm-hmm. That's what we would do. And also clean the gym floor, which was great. And from your perspective, I was only doing it because I had no other option. And from an OT's perspective, you're going, oh, that's very functional. And that's a good, different movement, so our worlds sort of intersected a little bit, which is cool. And I like to think that, I knew all that science, and that's exactly why I was doing that. I'd love to say that.
That's your creativity coming out, because you're also a very creative painter and artist, just all these other things.
All the things.
Too. Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. I would say the only place where we've found that we've differed is from your perspective. You kind of think everybody should love exercise as much as I do. And I'm like, no, everybody hates exercise.
I just never knew that. I don't understand.
And I think people lean towards not liking it and not wanting to do it.
I get that now, but
people, why don't they love this?
I just didn't understand. And I also never understood why people wore real clothes, why you're all wearing workout clothes all the time. A lot of people do. No, I truly have always loved it so much. I just really thought everyone did.
Yeah.
And that's not true. That's okay, though.
But when you can make it fun and show people how it's relatable, I think they're way more into it, how it's going to be.
Well, I don't know, do a lot of OTs prescribe things in exercises, movements in sets and reps, or is that more of a PT thing?
OTs can do that too, through the old 3 sets of 10 thing.
Yeah. Because I've learned, I used to be track the miles, track the time, track the reps, track the set. I don't do any of that. I don't wear a tracking device of any kind. Sometimes I'll count things at the gym, but I've learned a lot through what I've learned from you is just to listen to your body. Could you do one more, or is that going to send you over the edge? And just because you did, I don't know, listen to my body more. Or I don't call it a workout. I call it going kayaking and walking around the lake. It's just a nice day out. Let's go do this. Instead of calling everything a job or a workout or something to check off. Yeah, you do have to make it fun. And maybe you have to make your things that your clients need to do. I don't know if you can make all of them fun, but...
No, but here's a couple things. This makes me think of this. I often will give clients movements or exercises to do that are good for them as well as diagnostic, like the bird dog.
Okay.
Like the bird dog is good for you. It builds strength in your core, front and back, but it also will show you when and if you're getting weak, if you're starting to wobble, and then you need to up your game and your core a little bit. Or the Z-sit is one that'll start to tell you if your hips are getting tight.
I hate the Z-sit.
I know you hate this.
I hate it because
and the deep squat.
Because although I do that every day now too, but
yeah,
the things that are hard for us, we will say we hate, right?
Right.
But it's fun to improve on those things.
Yes, and weaving in those things that are kind of diagnostic into your regular routine somehow, I think are good just so you kind of know where your body's at, because if you start to lose mobility in the joints, you're going to start to have problems in the joints. If you lose your core, you're going to start to have problems with your spine and maybe your hips. So anyway, that's just a thought there, but we're probably like way long.
Wait, like, is it the next day?
I have no idea what time it is. So anyway, okay. Is there anything else you want to share, or did we miss talking about anything?
I don't know if we did or not miss anything, but I guess knowing who your audience is, just how important of a piece you are to people's wellness. It's, I don't think you can overstate that. And it's done one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And that's I think that's where people flourish, is the one-on-one connection. And
I feel like I found a really good formula for what I do with clients, and that's what I'm trying to share with other practitioners out there. So
I love it, and I wouldn't keep doing something that wasn't valuable in every way, really. You do have a great formula, and it's not, I know you speak
it's a flexible formula,
but I know you speak in front of large groups sometimes, and you taught classes in auditoriums probably and inspired a lot of people that way. But to me, it's the one-on-one thing.
I love that part so much.
Yeah, that's what you're great at. And if you can just bottle that up and give every OT that would be great. But no, it's changed my life, I would have to say. Changed my whole life, made it better.
Oh, now I'm overclamped.
No, I mean, not just the yoga nidra, even though I was wavering for a moment. No, it's just good to find someone that's in your corner, and it's great.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Was that a 9-hour podcast?
Thank you for tuning in to the Fascia-Informed Therapist. It's been a pleasure sharing insights and strategies to help you integrate fascia science into your practice. I'm Amy Mayer, and I hope today's episode has inspired you to explore further and take your therapeutic skills to the next level. Remember, we're committed to creating and providing top-notch, evidence-based, fascia-informed continuing education that empowers you as an occupational therapy practitioner. Stay connected with us for more enriching content, and don't forget to check out our online courses to deepen your expertise. Until next time, keep expanding your knowledge, refining your skills, and confidently applying the science of fascia to your practice. Here's to advancing together in health and wellness.